The Grinning Man. Barry woke up, and the Grinning Man greeted him. He crouched, a giant crow in his cape of shadows, on the desk across the room, the two black holes in his pale face fixed on Barry, baring the rusty nails that lined his mouth as he grinned. He had come every day for the last week, a silhouette of twisted bones in the half-light. He always pointed at the bedroom door with a crooked finger and laughed his wheezing laugh. Less than 3 leaps from the bed to the door, and yet that laugh mocked him that he would never make it. And he hadn't been able to make it since the Grinning Man's first visit. Barry had tried, had attempted to get out of the bed, but as soon as he had shifted his feet close to the edge, the Grinning Man had jerked forward, advanced with stiff limbs shaken by violent spasms, the rusty nails clicking with anticipation of a juicy meal. And every time, Barry ended up hiding under his duvet. By now, he had given up the very idea of crossing the floor to run to the front door and make it to the garden outside, because even in his mind, the Grinning Man stuck close, always at his back. His labored breath in his ear, the bones of his hands on the back of his neck. No, he would never make it. Unless... He called his mother again, sleeping in the room next to his. If she came in, maybe she could protect him from the glare and the laugh of the Grinning Man. And with time, she could lead him out of the room, and they would keep the Grinning Man locked safely away. But his mother never came. He called his father again, a man with a voice so powerful, Barry heard him shout through the walls in the morning. And once he had thrown a cup or plate against the wall, something that shattered as he shouted, "Get out!" If a man like that came in and raised his powerful voice, would the Grinning Man not flee from the room? But his father never came. And still, the Grinning Man glared and wheezed and mocked him with his crooked finger pointing at the door, as if to say, "Nobody is coming." And nobody was. And Barry saw himself lying in bed, his limbs refusing to move, still waiting for someone to come, as the Grinning Man with the rusty nails in his mouth crept closer, his wheezing breath in Barry's face as he opened his jaws and began to feed. "No more," Barry said, and sat up. He didn't have to make it to the garden. He just had to make it out of the room. Barry threw off the duvet. The Grinning Man wheezed and slid head first off the desk, his long limbs stretching like a spider's legs. He looked up at Barry, his mouth open, the nails scraping against each other as they stretched toward their prey. "I can do this," Barry said, and put his feet on the floor, first one, then another. Both times, the Grinning Man jerked his limbs forward, his bones twisting in impossible directions as he crawled closer. "I can do this," Barry said again, and took a step forward. "I have to." The Grinning Man snapped at him, the nails clinking together. Barry stayed close to the wall, keeping as much distance as possible between him and the Grinning Man, trying to get to the door from the side. The Grinning Man had stopped advancing and now stuck to his spot, halfway between the door and the desk. Barry had almost reached the door now, no more than 3 feet, and he would be free. The Grinning Man must have known. He swiped at Barry with a bony arm, missing him by just a few inches. He hissed, and his bones cracked as he rose up. Soon he would stand tall, growing and growing until he towered over Barry. "No!" Barry shouted. "I can do this!" He dashed forward. The grinning man let out a screech, a high-pitched wail 1,000 times worse than the wheezing laugh, and tumbled to the floor. His limbs flailed, his cape became a tangle of black. Barry didn't wait for him to get back up. He yanked the door open and leaped out into the corridor, slamming the door behind him. On the other side, the grinning man scratched and wailed. "Shut up!" Barry shouted, his whole body pressed against the door. "Leave me alone!" The grinning man stopped scratching. He wailed once more, but grew quieter, faded, leaving Barry with only a whisper at the back of his mind. A whisper that lingered as Barry headed for the front door.